Welcome to Mystara, as we are back on track with Gemstone Dragons, the neutral dragons of Mystara. The creatures are a six-pack of versatile monsters that can serve as allies, enemies, or plot hooks as necessary. The dragons covered are Amber, Crystal, Jade, Onyx, Ruby, and Sapphire. This is a bit of a deep dive because their backgrounds are either light or scattered across multiple books. Where the lore contradicts itself, I picked the more interesting lore. But enough preface. I'm Mr. Welch, and it's time to kill 2020 in Dragon's Fire. Mystara dragons differ from other settings dragons in a number of ways, the Gemstone dragons more than others. The ability to speak languages other than draconic isn't automatic, it depends on the dragon's age. Alignment has variables in Mystaran dragons. While an Amber dragon is typically chaotic neutral, about 1 in 3 will be either good or evil, with more good than evil. This percentage varies across the different Gemstone dragons, with a 20% variance being the normal, with the Jade Dragons having a 40% chance of alignment shift. This isn't restricted to the Gemstone dragons either. Approximately 5% of gold dragons aren't good, with 1% of them actually being evil. Red is the opposite, with 1 out of 100 actually being good. It's something to keep your party guessing, adding variance to the normally color-coded dragons. Diving into the dragons themselves, first up are the Amber Dragons, also known as brown dragons in other lesser settings. Amber dragons are one of the deadliest dragons in the world, at least on paper. Like all Gemstone dragons, Ambers have 2 breath weapons they can alternate between. The first is Magma, which it coats the target with. The Magma instantly destroys non-magical equipment and will even melt magical items in a few rounds. The second breath weapon is the dreaded Bane Gas. This gas causes a magical disease that rots the skin off its victims, preventing healing of all type, and continues until the target shakes off the effects or is stopped by magic. The only chaotic dragon amongst the Gemstone varieties, Ambers are known for their debauchery and slovenly nature. Older Gemstone dragons can shape-change into humanoid creatures, something that Ambers take full advantage of. The dragons love to indulge in the various celebrations of the human and demi-human settlements they frequent. Despite their smaller status while shape-changed, they keep their normal-sized appetites. An Amber dragon can drink a tavern dry, though most of them will pay for their binging. An Amber dragon that flies away without paying will often get punished by other Amber dragons, as the worst punishment Amber dragons fear is being cut off by the bartenders. Crystalline Dragons are one of the more social dragons, living in Arctic climates in draconic communities when they can gather in any number. They compete with the smaller white dragons for territory. Crystalline dragons have a strange dietary needs that requires them to search out desolate locations, and one that has made them the sworn enemy of dwarves everywhere. Crystalline dragons eat gems. They eat them by the ton. While they can subsist on common crystals like quartz, the rarer the gem, the better the taste. A crystalline dragon can eat the entire contents of a diamond mine in days. To help with this need, the dragons have their specialized breath weapons. The first is a cone of cold, identical to a white dragon. The other is a crystallizing breath that turns organic material, alive or dead, into a fragile glass-like crystal, which the dragons happily gorge on. The crystallizing breath acts exactly as a petrification attack, though the crystal is far more fragile than stone. It has the same remedies, though magic to restore creatures changed this way has an easier time reverting the victims. Crystalline dragons, are mentioned, are very social creatures. The problem with this is that the dragons themselves are rare, crystallines have a specific diet that can be difficult to acquire, and the dragons aren't typically found in populated areas. Because of these factors, the dragons are quite happy to get visitors, and will often try to befriend adventurers that were trying to rob them originally. Crystalline dragons will do everything in their power to keep their guests from leaving. They love to catch up on the news of the world, will prepare lavish feasts for their guests, or even willingly give them bits of their hoard to keep their guests around as long as possible. Crystalline dragons do not handle isolation well at all, and if a guest tries to sneak out, the dragon can turn violent, especially if the guest is rude. Jade Dragons have the reputation of being possibly the friendliest and talkative dragons in Mystara, and are known to be some of the best art connoisseurs in the world. Jade Dragons live in forests, similar to green dragons, but where green dragons spread fear and terror, Jade Dragons instead turn their homes into works of beauty. Jades are typically smaller in size, head to tail, compared to a green dragon, but they have a heavier build. From a distance, the two look almost identical unless the viewer knows the physical variations. Their breath weapons include a gas attack, similar to the green dragons, and the Fleshbane attack, also shared by Amber Dragons. Jades prefer not to use these attacks, as they are actually quite peaceful as far as dragons go. Jades enjoy the company of sylvan creatures. They're fast friends with various creatures like the Hasau, where they spend hours talking about philosophy and history. Jades have a love of art, and will carve elaborate statues to leave around their lairs. Jade lairs are more museums and art galleries than simple holes in the ground. Jades welcome visitors to their lairs. Some expand their hoards just from donations from patrons of the art. Jades are not above acquiring pieces of art for their lair, preferring to buy rather than take. They aren't adverse to larceny if necessary. It is hard to stop a dragon from grabbing a particular statue and just flying off with it, obviously. Onyx Dragons are the smallest of all true dragons, smaller than even white dragons. They're also known for their low intelligence, something that they are sensitive about, and they take out on other creatures. They rarely speak other languages, and even their draconic is stilted at best. They inhabit fetid swamps. While they compete with black dragons for territories, the smarter and larger black dragons have no problem taking the best territory for themselves. In combat, the dragon can breathe acid like a black dragon, or stream magical darkness that sticks to its victims. It does no damage, but the dragon can see through the darkness without problem, while the target is blinded for several minutes. Onyx dragons have almost a compulsive urge to force their will onto other creatures. They are the weakest of dragons, and they take their frustrations out by forcing other creatures to perform tasks for them, offer tribute, or generally stroke their ego. An Onyx Dragon will often find a village of humanoids and lord over them while they provide it with whatever offerings they can muster. Sometimes the dragon will overestimate its power and try to bully a creature far more powerful than itself, or greatly underestimate the strength of their target, like the Onyx that tried to demand a single cow from an entire Thaietian legion that could have easily defeated it. The dragon doesn't demand a large tribute. It's the act of providing tribute to satisfy his ego is the main goal. Ruby dragons are found in volcanic regions similar to red dragons, though rubies can tolerate colder temperatures than red dragons. Ruby dragons are known to be some of the most mercenary of all dragons. They will gladly enter into contracts to perform certain tasks, caring little to the actual task as long as the letter of the law is upheld. Because of this nature, many ruby dragons have been hired on retainer by various nations or powerful individuals. The ruby's breath weapons are a gout of flame like their red cousins, or magma like the amber dragons. Ruby dragons prefer order in their lives. They love tradition and rarely deviate from their routine. They're tidy creatures, preferring to organize their treasure hoards for easy counting. They follow their contracts to the letter of the law and expect the same from the contractor. Breaking a contract with a ruby dragon is a great way for a fiery death. In many contracts, the ruby will explain in great detail, leaving nothing to the imagination, what will happen to the other party if the contract is broken. This, along with the dragon's already enormous fee, means only the very wealthy and powerful will deal with a ruby dragon. The last of the Gemstone Dragons of Mystara is the Sapphire Dragon. Sapphires are by far the most social of all the Gemstone Dragons, preferring to spend most of their time disguised in human or demi-human form, becoming power players in their adopted society. Sapphires are known as the scholars and historians of draconic society. Indeed, they frequently pose as sages or librarians in their polymorphed guise. They typically aren't violent because of their nature, but if someone has a bit of information they need, the dragon has means of taking it. Their first breath weapon is a lightning bolt, similar to a blue dragon. Their second breath weapon is a vaporizing breath, which turns its victims into a gaseous form. While transformed, the victim can't interact much with the outside world, though the effect is temporary. This allows the dragon to get what it needs without any permanent harm to the people that would try to stop it. Sapphire dragons are known for hoarding information far more than necessary. Much of the information they gather is little more than tantalizing gossip. If the dragon is asked a question, the answer can last for hours as the dragon leaves out no detail, no matter how unimportant. All Sapphire dragons are incorrigible gossips, listening in on private conversations and later writing down everything they've learned, even if that information is trivial. Many times Sapphires will record so much information on a topic, finding anything useful is almost impossible because of all the sifting from the useful data needed. That wraps up the information on Gemstone Dragons. While they are all uniquely powerful, they're all slightly off, at least mentally. Gemstone Dragons tend to be obsessed over little details or quirks, letting it distract them from more important matters. Smart players will learn to exploit this. So, need a new topic for the new year, so jumping onto the list is the unique magics of Glantry. I'm gearing up for the new year now that the craziness of the holidays is dying down, so expect more videos, remakes, and the like next year. Remember to like and subscribe, and here's to hoping 2021 is a lot more forgiving. Still, hindsight will always be 2020.